Welcome to COYJ broadcast from Israel. Coming up next, the Israeli Intelligence Report with Don Esposito.
Greetings and welcome from Israel. This is Don Esposito with the Israeli Intelligence Report. Since our last report was published last month, an amazing amount of newsworthy information has been happening that is referred to in the Bible as the beginning of sorrows. If we are close to the end of the age, as we believe we are, I believe in the coming months, in the coming year, that we will see more of these increase in the birth pains that are coming. The financial situation in the United States has quickly gotten worse in the last 30 days. And even though the United States government and the Congress did come to an agreement to raise the debt ceiling and increase their amount of money that they can borrow by another $2.3 trillion, it really didn't do anything to stop the problem of the addiction to spending that the American government has, and actually made it much worse by making a projection that over the next 10 years, by the increased deficit that the American government agreed to, that they would be more than $25 trillion in debt, not counting unsecured liabilities such as Medicare and Medicaid. The aftermath of this was wild stock market crashes and also the downgrade from S&P for the very first time in the American history. Clearly we're seeing that Babylon has fallen. Also in the Middle East, things have continued to be very unstable, and things have shifted now from the problems in Libya, which have not gone away, but not so much in the news as they had been, to now you're seeing much more of a crisis that's coming from Syria, Iran, Turkey, and some of the other areas that's there. And meanwhile, the Palestinians are forging ahead to continue to prepare for a Palestinian state this coming September at the United Nations Yearly Security Council meeting. So what we will do in this program is, I'll go over now some of these things that I just talked about and show you some articles in the news from that, and we'll discuss a little bit about these things, how they're happening. Over here, 20% drop in housing to cause recession in 2012, says Gary Schilling. Gary Schilling, who is the president of Schilling and Company and the author of The Age of Delevering, says another recession is brewing, and many people, as we'll see, are not just saying a recession, but actually a depression that will be worse than the 1930s. He says no matter what action the Fed takes, we talked about this many times, about the quantitative easing that the Federal Reserve used Q1 when this problem first started back in 2008, and then Q2 that came from 210 into 211. But now that that's ended, we're quickly seeing a downward spiral in the GDP of the American government and also the spending of the people, which he is predicting will turn into a depression. Harry Dent, another major financial advisor, who in the last 20 years has predicted perfectly all the ups and downs of the stock market, even the big up going into the year 2000 and then the recent stock market downturn coming in 2008. He is predicting that the stock market will crash. He's saying that unemployment will reach 50%, and that possibly you'll see the stock market go down to levels in the low 3,300 range. Here's another article coming from the Daily Ticker. It says, our debt binge is ending and the middle class will get clobbered. One of the things that we're seeing here in the socialistic system that the American government has set up is that the middle class is basically disappearing. So you're having the superior global elite, which is less than 4% of the top of the echelon, and then you're seeing basically everyone else turning into the poor and the have-nots underneath there. Here's another article. U.S. Treasury says that the dollar could lose their reserve status. This came out on August 3rd from Money News. And it says the Committee of Bond Dealers and Investors that advised the United States Treasury said the dollar's status as the world's reserve currency appears to be slipping, and quarterly feedback presented to the government And as we'll see in other article here, is that China is actually calling for another reserve currency. One thing that many people don't realize is the one, I guess you could say, trump card that the American government has had that no other government in the world has is that they have the ability to print money at will. Anytime that financial situation happens, or like the stimulus that came in 2008 and 2009, because they are the reserve currency, they can basically just print paper money, and as long as the mentality of the people is that this money is worth something, they can do it indefinitely. We're getting to the point now that people are seeing this money is not worth what they thought it was. And as soon as the United States dollar is not the reserve currency of the world again, you will see literally the whole economic system of America Babylon fall overnight, including all the other ripples that will go throughout the world. So this is something to watch very carefully, because they're already way on the road toward going this way. And even in the United States of America, there are 10 states already that are using alternative currency to the United States dollar already. S&P downgrades U.S. credit rating from AAA. Very major psychological barrier that happened here. That for the very first time in the American history, that their AAA credit rating has been downgraded. S&P also said more downgrades can come in the coming months up to next year. And we're seeing other financial institutions such as Moody's and some of the other ones also talking about United States downgrade of their debt. And although it's more psychological than anything, this also means higher interest rates. It means America having more problems with borrowing money and more problems with getting people to buy their debt because of that. It says, in an unprecedented downgrade of the U.S. credit rating, the debt package falls short. The United States has lost its sterling credit rating from S&P. The credit rating on, this was last Friday, August 4th, I believe it was, lowered the nation's credit rating for the first time since granting it in 1917. World leaders confer on the debt crisis. This came from Saturday, August 6, 2011, right after this happened. And it says, China, the largest foreign holder of U.S. debt, took the world's economic superpower to task for allowing its financial house to go into disarray. It also revived its calls for a new, stable reserve currency to replace the U.S. dollar, gaining a sympathetic ear from, believe it or not, of all countries, United Kingdom. You would think that our friends would be staying with us in this time, but again, when things get bad, you see more of your friends during the bad times, not the good times, who they really are. Here's another article coming from CNN on August 4th. It said, food stamps in the United States of America rises to a record 45.8 million people. Wow. When you think about it, that is a big chunk. America, the richest nation on the face of the earth, the highest standard of living, and you have close to 46 million Americans that are on food stamps. Unbelievable. Here's an article from The Hindu, coming from India, saying the same thing about China. China's official media on Saturday hit out at the United States for its addiction to debts and for letting domestic politics hold the world economy hostage, saying that China now had every right to demand the United States address its debt problems in the wake of the country losing its top credit rating. The official China news agency called for international supervision over the U.S. dollar and for a new, stable, global reserve currency. In a commentary issued in response to Saturday's downgrading of the U.S. credit rating by Standard & Poor's to A+ for the first time in history. So again, China is our #1 debt holder with more than $1 trillion of United States debt in their bonds. And now, even though relations with China and the United States has not been bad over the last few years, money talks, more than anything. So they are saying, get your house in order or we will force a new currency to replace the dollar. and we know it's coming sooner than later. Here's an article that was written by Paul Farrell from Yahoo Finance that says 2011 to 2020, the decade of U.S. economic hell. And you know, for the longest time, America and Americans have lived higher than really what they should. The more you give somebody debt, the more they're going to spend, and this has been part of the problem, that people have been spending more than they have. There's been a spirit of covetousness in the United States of America, in the West, and now, you know, the time comes where you have to pay the piper. Nothing is free. When somebody is spending something that they don't have, it's coming from somewhere else. So literally they're saying it will be the decade of economic hell. Ron Paul, United States congressman, who also, a senator, who is also running for president, says the U.S. will default on their unsustainable debt. And I will quote here, Representative Ron Paul predicts that the United States will default on its debt, plain and simple. When a country is indebted to the degree that we're indebted, the country always defaults. And we know that on a simple level. We've seen it with millions of people that get into trouble, and you start living off of credit cards, and then you start getting another credit card to pay off the first credit card, and a fourth credit card to pay off the third credit card. But there comes a point where it's unsustainable. There just is not enough money coming in, and then the next step is bankruptcy. Return, here's another article from the end of July. Return of mass layoffs, a grim sign for U.S. workers. So we're seeing also that unemployment, which stands more than 9% at present, looks like it will be picking up the second part of the year. The United States GDP is virtually nothing, and actually if you take away the imaginary money that the Federal Reserve has been printing, the United States never came out of recession. They simply didn't. And they are on a quick road to depression. Here's an article that says Tehran's new ballistic missile, the Fatah 110, that has been converted to be used against ships, is a significant breakthrough. Iran has overtaken North Korea in the development of long-range sophisticated missiles, as demonstrated by the recent launch of a number of new missiles during military maneuvers in Iran, says Uzi Rubin, the former head of Israel's Homa Missile Defense Agency, on Thursday. Another article here. Iran successfully tests nuclear missiles. The commander of the Revolutionary Guards Aerospace Force, Brigadier General Amir Ali Hazradeh, told reporters on July 19th that the Guards tested their long-range ballistic missiles with much success earlier this year. He revealed that during the Iranian month of Bahman, which is between January 21st and February 20th, two ballistic missiles with a range of about 1,200 miles, both capable of carrying a nuclear warhead, were fired from a region in Semnan province at specified targets near the entrance of the Indian Ocean. So, wow. The Iranian commander also boasted about the recent missile war games held by Iran. To create an element of surprise against the enemy, he declared Iran would fire missiles from underground silos and hide and scatter missile stocks. The Iranian missile advances have long been coming. Last year, it was revealed that Iran was currently in possession of missiles not previously known to the West, and several months later in the WikiLeaks about Iran, it revealed that the Revolutionary Guards have obtained a cache of advanced missiles from North Korea capable of carrying nuclear warheads. With a range of 2,000 miles, these missiles give Iran the capacity to strike the capitals of Western Europe. Also alarming in the Guards' successful test of a Shahib ballistic missile from a ship and its testing of a remote control detonation while in high altitudes. Does Iran intend to use nuclear bombs for an electromagnetic attack? A missile launch from a ship with a range of 2,000 miles would make it easy for any vessel to get within the striking distance of launching a successful EMP attack on the United States of America. Just let me explain for 1 minute what that means to our viewers if you don't understand this. That an electromagnetic pulse missile would be where they may not, at least we don't think they have the capability from Iran to go 8,000 miles to hit one of the American cities. But if they take their ships off of American shores and the Pacific or the Atlantic Ocean in international waters, up to 2,000 miles, they can shoot a nuclear missile in the air from the waters, and it would shoot up a electromagnetic pulse change in the altitude, which would really cripple the American electrical grid. And we'll see a couple of articles in here that talks about this. So again, it may not be where they're hitting an American city with a nuclear bomb, but this would be much, much worse, because it's already been reported by the American government themselves that if there was an electromagnetic pulse attack in the United States of America, although immediately you might have 100,000 or 200,000 people dying, over the course of 30 days, they said that can go from 10 million to 30 million people. Because without electric, how many people would die in hospitals, how many people would not be able to get medicine, it would cause mass chaos that our country has never seen before. It says here, studies show that an EMP attack on America could bring the country to its knees by knocking out electrical power, computers, circuit boards, controlling most automobiles and trucks, banking systems, communications, and food and water supplies. So, beside the electric, all the coal, all of our missiles, we wouldn't even be able to attack back because we would not have the capability if there was no electronics that was working from that point. The Iranian leaders have openly speculated about a new world order where Israel will no longer exist and where America's demise is imminent. They believe the final glorification of Islam will take place through the coming of the last Islamic Messiah at that time, called the Mahdi. So again, you're not just looking at a country that is looking to strategically move themselves up in the world array of becoming a predominant country. You're looking at a country that is being run by fanatical Islamic fanatics. There's really no other way to say it. And these people believe that their life, their whole existence is there to bring about the Islamic Messiah called the Mahdi, who will come and destroy all Jews. He will come and destroy all Christians. It says in the Hadith to kill the Jew on Saturday and kill the Christian on Sunday. So we see where this is going toward. Here's another article. Hezbollah rides high in Lebanon, installs member as security chief. And if you remember last fall, the Lebanese government fell. A new government was put in place. The government was basically set up with its leaders by Hezbollah. So Hezbollah is alive and well. They are threatening Israel at the northern border. Israel, about 2 years ago, found a cache of natural gas in the Mediterranean Ocean in their territorial waters. They're partners with several other countries on this, including Cyprus and some European countries. But now, all of a sudden, Lebanon is saying, wait a second, that's our land in the water. That's not your land. And Hezbollah is threatening to attack Israel at their northern border because of this situation. We will keep you posted in the months ahead. Here's an article coming from WorldNet Daily. Iran says U.S. will be taught the mother of all lessons. Editorial warns of pending cyber attack on electrical grid, just as we just said. Iran is planning to retaliate against the United States for the sabotage against its nuclear program, according to the editorial in the Kayan newspaper, the mouthpiece of Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Specifically, Iran is looking into launching a cyber attack against the United States electrical grid systems. Moving in a little different direction for a couple of minutes here. Weather. Weather is a big problem these days. worldwide and everywhere, particularly the United States, this past year has been having horrific weather. And here is from Reuters, an article by Carl Plum, dated July 28th, and it says things look like they will get worse before they get better, says Texas official. The worst drought in decades tightened its grip on the southern plains in the past week as triple-digit temperatures and a lack of rain scorched cattle grazing pastures and parched crops, according to a report issued by the U.S. climatologists on Thursday. Exceptional drought, the most severe category measured by climatologists, now encompass more than 70% of Texas and more than 40% of Oklahoma. And it's getting hotter out there by the day, and they don't believe this situation will change for at least the next 6 to 8 months or longer. With the extreme heat and continued lack of rainfall, conditions just continue to deteriorate in western Oklahoma, and now the drought is advancing to the east as well, said Associate State climatologist Gary McManus. Average high temperatures in western Oklahoma have been above 100 degrees Fahrenheit for much of the past 3 weeks, the longest stretch of such heat in at least 30 years. He said it has also since October been the driest period on record in western Oklahoma. Another point of weather here, you remember the big earthquake that happened in Christchurch, New Zealand? It says since that time that happened, 7,500 earthquakes have happened in Christchurch, New Zealand from that time. Seismologists have recorded 7,500 earthquakes in Christchurch since last September, an average of more than 20 every day. The rumblings are rattling the psyche of the still battered city. They have left the land under thousands of homes unsafe to be built on, as some people have left the town entirely. And we know the Bible says that in the end time, one of the signs our Messiah tells us that his return is imminent, is that we will see an increase in earthquakes around the earth. More weather, giant dust storms moves through Phoenix area. A giant wall of dust rolled through the Phoenix area on Monday, turning the sky brown, creating dangerous driving conditions and delaying some airports. The dust wall was 3,000 feet high and created winds of 25 to 30 miles an hour, with gusts of up to 40 miles an hour. Wow, that's pretty intense. Here's from Reuters from July 29th. Weather disaster seen, costly signs of things to come. The United States is on pace in 2011 to set a record for the cost of weather-related disasters, and the trend is expected to worsen as climate change continues, officials said on Thursday. The economic impact of severe weather event is only projected to grow, said Senator Dick Durbin at the hearing of a Senate subcommittee on financial services and government, which he chairs. We are not prepared, he said. Our weather events are getting worse. Catastrophic, in fact. Those are his words, not mine. Washington Times said, we talked about Iran building a electromagnetic pulse weapon. Here from the Washington Times on Friday, July 22nd, it says China is building an electromagnetic pulse weapon to use against the United States of America. China's military is developing electromagnetic pulse weapons that Beijing plans to use against United States air carriers in any further conflict over Taiwan, according to an intelligence report made public on Thursday. So, although many in America think, oh, it's not such a problem with Iran and we can take care of them, although the Bible says something very different, and I hope to do a whole program on the beast of Daniel, and from Babylon to Persia to Greece to Rome, and to show those 4 beasts of Daniel. I think everyone in the world can understand that China would be a real force against America in any kind of military situation here. Here's an article from the Associated Press on July 26 that an underground church pastor sent to China labor camp. And we know freedom of religion is not allowed in China. Many pastors are being persecuted and even killed for their faith in Messiah, and something we need to keep in prayer, and another sign of the end. They will bring you before Sanhedrins, and they will persecute you for my name's sake. Iran's missiles could soon hit America's shores. We already talked about that. I don't think I will go in there any further. But now moving over to the Middle East, Assad, the leader of Syria, toughs it out against U.S.-Turkish ultimatum to halt military crackdown. And just a few days ago now, we know that this has been going on for more than 1-2 months. In Syria, there have been mass protests. There have been the people who actually are run by the Muslim Brotherhood. So although the Assad government has not been friendly to Israel and has been no picnic to the world, if they are overturned by the Muslim Brotherhood, who have already overturned Tunisia, Egypt, they're making heights in Saudi Arabia, in Bahrain, in other places, it could cause much more instability in the Middle East than what we already see there now. So Assad is roughing it out against that, but now we see an article here that says Iran warns Turkey to butt out of Syria, because just a few days ago Turkey has warned Syria that if they don't stop the crackdown, which they're doing on the protesters that are there, that Turkey is going to attack Syria. Turkey has called up their soldiers to the border over there, and their reserve soldiers they've been calling up, and there's getting ready to be a conflict. And you know that if Turkey attacks Syria, Iran will attack Turkey, and America will attack Iran. So it definitely is a domino effect, and we're seeing all these things accumulate as we're reading this right here. Here's another article from July 30th, posted in Joseph Farah's G2 Bulletin from WorldNet Daily. It says, Iran on track to take over U.S. influence in the Middle East. So where America, since Barack Obama has become president, has lost a lot of its influence in the Middle East, and he has not turned out to be the leader that they expected there, Iran has gained its influence tremendously at this period of time. Thousands demonstrate for an Islamic State in Egypt. This is by the Associated Press, again, Friday, July 29th. Now, very interesting, if you remember when this started back last fall, in November and December in Egypt, what were they saying? That these were secular students and pro-Western young people that were just looking for democracy. This was not an Islamic movement to take over the country there. And at that time we said that is absolutely false. The Muslim Brotherhood is behind this. The Muslim Brotherhood runs Hamas and other terror organizations in the Middle East. And here we have it here, the article that just came out, that says thousands demonstrate for an Islamic State in Egypt. Calls for an Islamic State have been taken over Cairo's Tahrir Square as the largest demonstration since February has been mobilized by the country's Islamic organizations. Ultra-conservative Muslims turned out in force Friday as hundreds of thousands filled Cairo's central Tahrir Square on a rally marked by a growing rift in the protest movement. So, again, something to watch for as the Islamics take over and we head into more serious times here in the Middle East. We talked a little bit before about Iran and possibly China planning an electromagnetic pulse attack on the U.S. Here's an article coming also from WorldNet Daily that says, the Pentagon CIA open targets for crippling attack. Countries' electrical grills in the United States of America and their power plants may also be unprotected. Is the United States government, including the CIA and the Pentagon, an open target for a crippling cyber attack? Are the country's major industries, such as the electrical grids and nuclear facilities, properly protected for the looming major threat of cyber terrorism? There are developments, including the Obama administration, have been slow to shore up the critical infrastructure, which may be ripe for attacks in a new age of cyber warfare. So America is not ready for this kind of attack. Here's an article coming on July 25th that says, Iran, we have no option but to destroy Israel. And again, coming from the head of their Iranian National Guard, that they're saying they have no other option but to destroy Israel and wipe them off the map. And the last article I would like to quickly get into, as we're running out of time, is a survey that was done by the Jerusalem Post a few weeks back that says 7 of 10 Palestinians reject a two-state solution. So here where they're saying that the Palestinians want peace with the Israelis and all they want is social justice, a term we've heard throughout the world that just means communism. But it says 1 in 3 Palestinians, 34% only, accepts 2 states for 2 people as the solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, according to an intensive face-to-face survey in Arabic of 1,000 Palestinian students, or adults rather, in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. That was made by an American pollster. 66% said the Palestinians' real goal should be to start with a 2-state solution and then move it along to 1 state, a Palestinian state, which we said many times. Asked about the fate of Jerusalem, 92% said it should be the capital of Palestine, 1% said the capital of Israel, 3% said both, and 4% said neutral. So we see here that the goal of the Palestinian Authority is not to make 2 states side by side, but to start that way until they can destroy Israel and make 1 state of Palestine. We also see, we're out of time, so I can't get into these articles about the famine that's going on, but in Somalia, in Sudan, in Kenya, we're seeing heart-rending pictures of famine that's still happening. Many people are dying every day. Many children are dying. Over here it says 29,000 Somali children under 5 have died already. So something that we do want to keep in prayer, as this situation will worsen in the coming months and years ahead. But the one thing that hopefully we can get into more in the next report, as we will get closer to the time where the Palestinians will be going to the Security Council, is we'll talk what will be the result of a Palestinian state that will be voted on this September. And I believe from Scripture, from Joel 3, 1 and 2, and other scriptures that we'll get into, it is going to be horrific for Israel and horrific for the world. So like the Bible says, when you see these things happening, look up, for your salvation is near. This is Don Esposito for the Israeli Intelligence Report. Until next month, Shalom from Israel.